Alrighty, welcome everyone. This is actually recording round 2 because the first time I recorded, my camera decided to be off, and it was just me talking over the whole thing. So I get to do this all over again. That's going to be my excuse for why this is late. Not that I recorded the first one 2 hours ago, anyways. Anyway, here we go. I'm going to do one problem from every section, basically. And if you want full credit, you do have to do all the questions. Remember, answers are on the back. Let's get going. So number 1, you are allowed to use a calculator. Don't forget, you need to put the stuff in the numerator first, stuff in the denominator second. You got to be careful when plugging into the calculator, though, to use the correct negative sign. So what am I talking about? When you're doing these, you want to go ahead and make sure that you type in the small negative sign. That's this guy here at the bottom. When you're making a number negative. So negative 11 plus 2 plus 3 gives you negative 6 on the top there. And then same thing for the bottom here. You make sure you show one step of work. This is one step of work right here. So you got negative 3. Now I'm going to use the big negative sign to actually subtract the numbers. So minus negative 6. So notice the order that happened in. It has to happen in that order or you will get the wrong answer. It needs to be that big negative sign. So minus a negative. And then now minus another negative 3. You get positive 6. And that's going to be negative 1. Negative 6 over 6 is negative 1. Easy peasy. Please note, you could have also, a negative of a negative is a positive. So I could have just added 6 there. A negative of a negative is a positive. I could have just added 3 there. That's another way of thinking about this question. All right, cool. Number 3. Just going to replace. Be careful with your negative signs again. So I have n here is negative 3 plus 2 minus an m, negative 5, minus p, also negative 5, plus m, that's a negative 5. And my negative 5s are asking for some help there. That is an ugly 5. I apologize. And here you just got to make sure you go left to right. Things that a negative is a positive, so let's just go left to right and do it. Negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Minus a negative is a plus. Minus a negative is a plus. Plus a negative is a minus. And negative 1 plus 5 minus 5. Again, you could use a calculator if you wanted. It doesn't really matter which way you're going to do this. Either way, you get 4. Let's continue on. Number 5. So number 5, distributive property. So that distributive property there, you got to do 9m, that's 9m times 1. 9m times 4m there, that's going to be plus 36m squared. Negative 3 times 3, that's negative 9. And negative 3 times negative 7, that's plus 21m. And now we just got to add like terms right in the correct order. So the first thing to write is that m squared, 36m squared. 9m and 21m is 30m. And then minus 9. I don't know why the answer key has this written in the wrong order, but, it was made by a computer, wasn't made by me. So that's what happens sometimes. Number 7. This one's important. And the reason why this one's important is a lot of students end up writing B, and it's not. It's C. Let's talk about why. If this is a negative, you need to make it positive. There are 2 ways to make this positive. My preferred way when starting these questions is to add v to both sides of the equation. So I'm going to put plus v minus v plus v. Now I didn't really need to write this over here because the minus v plus v is going to just cancel out. And then I can subtract 5 on both sides. When I subtract 5 on both sides, again, I can actually show all the work for it. But it's actually easier just to go and say, oh, 19 minus 5 is 14. So there's option 1 to doing the question. Now, option 2 to doing the question is just realizing you're allowed to multiply both sides by negative 1 when you feel like. What am I talking about? So most students, what they do is they start off by subtracting 19 on both sides. And they get negative 14 equals negative v. But they circle negative 14, and it's not. What you do is you multiply both sides by negative 1. And if you multiply negative 14 times negative 1, it's positive 14. And negative v times negative 1 is positive v. There's another way of getting 14 is equal to v. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Second page now. So on to the second page here. I'm going to start with number 12 now. On number 12, Easy enough. When you're dividing something to undo division, we're going to multiply. So we're multiplying both sides of the equation by 20, and you get r is negative 4 times 20, which is negative 80. Use that calculator if needed. Kind of a freebie, to be honest. Same with number 14. When you have a multiplication times 6x, divide both sides. So x is going to be equal to 66 over 6. If you need to, use a calculator. That is A. Not too bad. Number 15. So in number 15, you need to get m by itself, so it takes 2 steps. Step 1 is to add 3 to both sides. Now I could put the plus 3 on both sides here, but your life is easier if you just practice, not writing it. You'll have less effort to do over the next couple of years. Negative 6 plus 3, that's negative 3. And then dividing by 5 to undo division by 5, we multiply both sides by 5. And that's going to be negative 15. Not too bad. Of all the next ones here, I'm choosing to do number 19. I think that one's the most difficult one, so let's do it. We're going to go ahead and distribute this negative sign. Distribute this negative sign, or this 8, sorry. Negative times a negative is a positive. A negative times a negative is a positive. 8 times r is just 8r. 8 times 3 is 24. And then subtract 8. Not too bad. Next step, combine like terms. The only like terms in this problem right away are this 24 minus 8. So add 16. Now I need to get r alone. You could do this in, 2 steps, 3 steps. I'm going to do it in 3. I'm going to subtract 6 on both sides first. Again, you could write the minus 6. Write the minus 6. Do that if it makes you happy. Does not make me happy, though, so I'm not going to write it. 16 minus 6 is 10. Now I'm going to go ahead and subtract 8r on both sides. When I subtract 8r minus 8r gives you negative 5r. 3 minus 8. Again, use your calculator if needed. Divide both sides by negative 5, and 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. All done. Moving on to number 23. So number 23 here, basically you got to make sure you are able to use the calculator correctly if you need to. You got to factor out what can be factored out. If you're able to figure out that 5 goes into both 5 and 10, you can do that right away. It's easy enough. But if you cannot figure it out, you can use a calculator. So to use a calculator for ourselves, what we're going to do is we're going to hit this math button right here. We're going to scroll to the right to num. Scroll down to the GCD. We've been doing this a bunch in class. Hopefully remember doing it. And then we type in 10, comma 5. Remember, the comma, by the way, is above the 7. It's right there. You cannot type in negative, so you notice I didn't type in negative 10. So you have 5 there is our answer. However, if this is a negative sign, must be a negative out front. Gotta do that. Write down every letter that shows up in everything. In this case, x and y both show up. And you're writing the lowest exponent from each. So x to the 9th. X to the 3, the lowest exponent is 3. Y to the 3rd, y to the 4th, the lowest exponent is 1. Or 4. Oh my gosh, it is not 1. Where did I find 1? The lowest exponent is 3. Between 3 and 4, the lowest number is 3. Get it together, Mr. Richards. All right, negative 10 divided by negative 5. That's what we're doing. We're dividing the numbers here, subtracting the exponent. So divide these, subtract those. Okay, negative 10 divided by negative 5 is positive 2. 9 minus 3 is 6. 3 minus 3 is nothing, so I don't have to write it. Now, 5 divided by negative 5, that's negative 1. You don't have to write the 1, but I will. It's good practice. 3 minus 3 is nothing, but 4 minus 3 is 1. So again, if you want to write the 1, do it. You don't have to. That's the whole question. Note how there was no work to show on that question. You kind of just had to think through it, and that's the case. So these problems are all or nothing. Every single mistake is going to be -1. You got to be careful. Let's move on to that last page. Boom. So I'm going to do a couple of these. I'm going to kind of take them step by step here. I'm going to go kind of do at least one of each is my goal. I'm going to do number 27, number 28, and number 31, and number 34. And number 38. So let's get through these. Actually, not 34, I did 35. All right. So step 1. These are considered easy questions. The reason why these are easy questions is because there's not a number in front of the r. When there is a number in front of the r, like these ones down here, like number 38, they're harder. But these are easy questions. So in their easy questions, you simply write down all the factors of that last number, like the 60. So I got 1 times 60. I'll start there. If you can figure all the factors in your head, do it. If you can't, use your calculator. What am I talking about? So 60 times 1 is obvious. 60 divided by 2 gives us 30. So I can now write 2 times 30. I can do 60 divided by 3. And that gives me 20. So I got 3 times 20. I can do 60 divided by 4. That's going to give me 15. I got 60 divided by 5. That's going to give me 12. 60 divided by 6. Hopefully you can do that one in your head. 60 divided by 7. Oh, I get a decimal number. That means it's not going to work out for us. 60 divided by 8 maybe. Oh, decimal number. 60 divided by 9. Oh, decimal number. But I can stop next because if I wrote 10, I already wrote 10 down, so I can be done. So I've written down every single possibility. And now we figure out what they add up to. So 60 and 1 is 61. 30 and 2 is 32. 23, 19, 17, and 16. So what is the overall result here? As our answer is going to be 16 because it adds to 16. So we got 6 and 10. R plus 6, R plus 10, that's the whole problem. Not too shabby. 28, almost exactly the same. This time I'm not going to show the calculator work. We're just going to do it by hand. We got 1 times 56, 2 times 28, 3 does not work. 4 does work. It is 14. Does 5 work? No. Does 6 work? No. Does 7 work? Yes, 7 times 8. After that, we are noticing, though, that it multiplies to positive 56, but it adds to a negative. Because it multiplies to a positive, adds to a negative, that is to say, if this one's a negative and this one's a positive, both sides get a negative sign. Maybe write a note for yourself like that on your cheat sheet. That's it, because this guy right here adds to negative 15. Easy peasy. Let's go ahead and do number 31 over here. So 31 multiplies to 20. That's going to be 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 4 times 5. But here's the deal with this 20 is it multiplies to a negative, but it adds to a negative. So if both of them are negative like this, the negative is going to go on the right-hand side only. It's going to go on the bigger number because when they add together, they need to add to negative numbers. So that's negative 19, that's negative 8, that's negative 1. Oh, there's the answer. These are nice and fast. Okay, so now we are on to our last two, our harder two questions. It's not that big a deal, though. We're in number 35. So on number 35, I'm splitting it into two questions first. All I'm doing is literally copying, if you notice, but I'm copying by splitting it up so it's nice and clear that there are two separate parts to this. Using our calculator's GCD button again if you need to, or just realizing you can take out an 8 from both. And then also x cubed and x squared. The lowest exponent is a 2, so I write x squared. Divide the numbers, subtract the exponents. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 3 minus 2 is 1. 8 divided by 8 is 1. No x's remain. Both the x's are gone. Rule. If this number is negative, you write a negative sign. If that number is positive, you write a positive sign. But here's the reason why I picked 35 instead of, say, 36 or 34, is because if there's nothing to pull out of these two, you pull out a 1. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5. Don't forget the x. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is positive 1. And then I can be done because I have a 5x plus 1 and a 5x plus 1. Those are the same. And what's left over is 8x squared minus 1. Nice and easy. Last problem I'm going to do for you guys is number 38. So on number 38, It's a little bit different because there's this number in front. When there's that number in front, it is not one of the easy peasy ones. You got to do a little bit more effort. So what you have to do for that little bit more effort is this. You're going to have to first take that 30, multiply it by, the 3, and multiply it by the 50. So we're doing 3 times 50 first. I wrote 30 again. My brain is not working. All right, 3 times 50. That is 150. And that right there is the number we're writing our factors for. So we have 1 times 150, 2 times 75. Again, you're using your calculator to get these numbers if you need to. 4 times doesn't work. 5 times 30. We got 6 times 25. The 7 work node is 8 work node, is 9 work node, is 10 work ES. 11, 12, 13, 14. Nothing else works. All right, so there we go. And again, just like this number 28 up here, we just did, it multiplies to a positive and adds to a negative. So if it multiplies to a positive and adds to a negative, they're both negative. And the one that adds to negative 35 is boom right here, because that goes to negative 35. So this is where the question gets funky. We rewrite it 3x squared. That negative 35x is going to become negative 5 and negative 30. Now it's just like number 35. We split it up into 2 separate parts. That's why I left a little bit of a space. So no number comes out of these two, but an x does, so I can pull out an x. Took away one x, took away the only x. Here, if that's a negative, I have to pull out a negative. If it's a positive, I make it a positive. Number shared between 30 and 50. Use your GCD button if you can't figure it out, but this one should be nice and easy. It's just 10. Negative 30 divided by negative 10 is 3. Don't forget your x. 50 divided by negative 10 is negative 5. Be careful. 3x minus 5, 3x minus 5. Those are the same. And what's left over is x minus 10. Kaboom. We are all done with this video, guys. Good luck on this test. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving weekend. And have a good one.